Just a second. Еще одну минуту, пожалуйста. Мы сейчас делаем трансляцию на канал в YouTube и на Facebook, и из-за этого небольшая заминка. We are doing now, we are connecting our Facebook channel and YouTube channel, so just a little, it's now. Добрый вечер, дорогие друзья. Good evening. Hello, dear friends. Добро пожаловать на виртуальную площадку Русского дома в Брюсселе. And welcome to the virtual platform of the Russian House in Brussels. Перед тем, как начать сегодня наш вечер, несколько технических деталей. Before we begin our evening, some technical issues. Сегодня наш виртуальный визит проходит на русском и на английском языке, на двух звуковых дорожках. Те, кто продолжают слушать нас на русском, ничего делать не должны. Те, кто хотят выбрать английский язык, пожалуйста, кликните на иконки с изображением глобуса внизу справа от вашего экрана. So our virtual visit of the Space Museum in Moscow today is in two languages, in Russian and in English. It will be English visit, English excursion. If you want to follow us in Russian, so you can stay as is. If you want to continue to listening in English, please click on the icon, globe icon in the, on your screen and choose original version. The icon globe on your screen to choose the English language. And I would like to introduce to you our colleagues from Moscow. And я хотела прежде всего представить наших московских коллег, сотрудников музея, одного из самых необычных космических музеев в России, павильона «Космос» на выставочном комплексе VDNKh. And I would like to introduce to you our colleagues from one of the most original museums, space museums of our country. It's the Space Museum of the Exhibition Center in VDNKh in Moscow. And I'm very happy to pass the floor to Natalia Zadvornaya, representing of this museum. Hello, Natalia. The floor is yours. Please.
Добрый день, друзья. Рада вас приветствовать. Спасибо, что присоединились к нашей онлайн-экскурсии. Сегодня мы проведем для вас экскурсию по Центру космонавтики и авиации на ВДНХ. И хочу сказать, что в этом году Центр отпраздновал свое 5-летие. И вообще на ВДНХ у нас аж 24 музея, так что, надеюсь, у нас будет возможность посетить их все впоследствии. Ну, а сегодня приглашаю вас на экскурсию по Центру космонавтики и авиации. На русском языке экскурсию для вас будет вести Ксения Марабита, а на английском с вами будет Мария Янченко. Желаю вам прекрасной прогулки.
Good evening. Сейчас идет. Все, можно начинать, да? So, So, good evening, dear guests. My name is Maria, and I will be your guide today. Glad to welcome you at the Aerospace and Aviation Center, which is located in the legendary Cosmos Pavilion. Our exhibition consists of two main areas. The first area is the space one, and the second area is the aviation one. So we will begin from the space area. And I'll begin my story about the space exploration from the event that marked the beginning of the space age. So the space age began on the 4th of October 1957. Then, for the first time in history, the orbital velocity was achieved. It's approximately 8 kilometers per second. So the first object that achieved such a speed was the first artificial satellite. Here in our center, you can see a full-size model of the first artificial satellite. It was also called PS1. Stands for the simplest satellite, number one. Its designer was very simple indeed. Inside of this metal ball, there was a radio transmitter. So it transmitted the first artificial radio signals with the help of the 4 antennas outside. And each person that had a radio recorder could hear those signals. So hearing those signals, all the humanity got inspired by the new opportunities that space science portended to the world. People tried not only catch the radio signals, but also see this object, and some spectators even tried to see it with an unaided eye. But of course, the satellite was too small to see with the human eye. So some of the spectators were lucky. They saw part of the carrier rocket, the second stage of the missile rocket 7. Let's have a look at the scale model of this rocket. Here it is. Our model is 20 times smaller than the real missile. So R7 was designed by an outstanding Soviet engineer. His name is Sergei Korolev. He was ahead of the Soviet space program for long years. And this rocket, R7, became a legend. It was the first intercontinental ballistic missile, and it became the basis for the entire family of the carrier rockets. R7 family carrier rockets, R7 series. In front of our pavilion, on the square, you can see a full-size model of the Vostok carrier rocket. So Vostok is a deep modification, of the R7 rocket. Nowadays, we use another deep modification. It's called Soyuz. R7 had 2 stages. First one is made up of 4 boosters, so-called carrots. We can call them carrots because of such a form. And the second stage is this central block. It was 27 meters long. So, of course, it was more noticeable in the sky than the first artificial satellite. So, just after a month after the launch of the PS1, another artificial satellite was sent into the orbit. The second artificial satellite already carried the first space passenger, a homeless mongrel dog called Laika. Let's have a look at a full-size model of the second artificial satellite. So here it is. You can see that a tiny dog called Laika was placed into container.
Около
So
у нас представлены в полную величину.
life support
То
system
есть можно внутрь заглянуть, как там
provided
собака расположилась. По задумке ученых, Лайка на орбите должна была провести целую неделю. На это время у нее было все необходимое. Кислород, также для ее туалет. Что к ней подключили раздатчик. Они считывали давление, есть важные параметры. Задача ученых тогда было выяснить, сможет ли длительно
to return Laika from space because scientists didn't manage to create a special descent vehicle for her. So for Laika, it was one-way flight, unfortunately. Her heart stopped beating a few hours after the launch because it couldn't stand overheat. Like heroic flight, we learned it's possible for living creature to stand the overload during the launch, and also
Советский Союз стал первой страной, совершившей полеты в космосе для живого существа. И к 1957 году посадочную готовить для этого. Планированную неделю на орбите, к сожалению, не уже. Дело в том, что произошел ступор, и температура внутри...
On board the prototype of the Vostok spacecraft, here we can see a full-size model of the Vostok spacecraft. So Belka and Strelka were placed in a special eject capsule, and this capsule was placed into this vehicle.
Следующий
Belka and Strelka went
космический в 2010 году на орбиту запустил живых существ, вернулся на Землю. Это знаменитая Белка и Стрелка. На Марии мы сейчас можем космический аппарат, с помощью их на орбиту запускаем. Также затем это космический первым космический Восток-1 совершает в 1961 году знаменитый полет, самый первый в космос. Космодром 12 апреля мы празднуем
Yuri Gagarin performed his flight to the orbit. And we have a little section, yes, dedicated to the first manned flight. Let's have a look.
Конечно же,
Here we can see a photo of the first cosmonaut and also two newspapers. From the 12th of April 1961.
с Юрием Алексеевым и обратить внимание, мы видим,
Gagarin's single orbit around the Earth lasted,
конечно, были
So during this flight, Gagarin performed simple actions.
всего лишь
For example, took notes, and also
автоматически. Но зато он
after he successfully returned from his flight, he became the first citizen of the universe. And even a series of wristwatch was released. Such wristwatch was called Vostok, named after the spacecraft. Here you can even see the instrument panel.
Человека возможно, человек сохраняет
And the control panel of
организма
spacecraft.
невесомость не за Юрием Алексеевым совершаются полеты. Например, второй космонавт на орбите уже целые сутки 3 раза
manual control system.
ручное
So
управление,
but
и даже
fortunately,
заснуть. Естественно,
Gagarin didn't
удалось
have to
даже под
use
землей.
this manual control system. So when it was time to return to Earth, this spacecraft decelerated, slowed down, and began its way back to the Earth.
Всего восток, они сейчас.
So we can see that this spacecraft is consisted of two main parts: the instrumental compartment and the descent vehicle. So during the return to the Earth,
еще один
this
космический
part separated
является единственной
and
женщиной
dropped
в мире,
down into the
которая в космосе
atmosphere.
была одна.
And the
Она была
descent vehicle
командиром
successfully
космического судна.
returned with a cosmonaut on
Ее,
board.
кстати,
So Yuri
аппарат сейчас
Gagarin
временно
sat in a special
на
seat
позиции
on board of this spherical part.
покидает
But at the
предприятие,
altitude of 7
которое
kilometers, Gagarin had to eject from the descent vehicle to his seat because the direct impact with the ground on the landing could be dangerous. This vehicle wasn't equipped with a special soft landing system. So not only Yuri Gagarin, but also another 5 cosmonauts had to return this.
Еще
Last and 6th one was the first
за спиной
cosmonaut, Valentina Tereshkova.
детей. Внизу это приборная
Here you can see newspapers with
агрессивная система.
photos.
Наверху мы можем увидеть сферу. Именно там располагается человек, и, собственно, только
Valentina
аппарат после
Tereshkova
полета
was 26 years
возвращается.
old during her flight.
Первые космонавты
And this year, the 6th of March, he celebrated her 86th birthday. Her flight lasted 3 long days, and during her flight, he made photos of the Earth and Moon. And after he successfully returned to Earth, a series of women wristwatch was released. Such wristwatch was named Chaika, stands for the seagull. Chaika was her cycle during the flight. Valentina Tereshkova was not only the first female cosmonaut, but also the last cosmonaut that had to eject from the vehicle. As in 1963, on the base of the Vostok spacecraft, we created another one. It was called
в специальном спускаемый аппарат подземный на большой скорости, где человек
to the orbit. There were 2 Voshods that were launched to the orbit, and from the board of the second one, from the board of the Voshod 2 spacecraft, for the first time in history, human made a step to the outer space. Let's have a look at a small model of the Voshod spacecraft.
Первые космонавты крест тем приземляют.
So here it is. It has much in common with the Vostok spacecraft, but Voshod was already equipped with a soft landing system, soft landing engines. That's why cosmonauts didn't have to eject from the descent vehicle. The second Voshod was equipped with a special inflatable airlock, and through this airlock, cosmonaut Alexei Leonov made his first step to the outer space. Here you can see 3 pictures, copies of Leonov's pictures. He was not only a pilot and a cosmonaut, but also a talented artist. years after he saw Earth from the space for the first time, he painted such a picture. Here you can see the spacecraft, the cosmonaut, and a special flyaway umbilical cord. So Leonov was fixed to the board of the spacecraft with this cord. During the flight, Leonov also painted a picture, this one. So he captured everything that impressed him during the flight, even the view from the window. Here it is, this small picture. This mission was full of accidents. And now I'll tell you about one of them. I'll tell you what happened with Alexei Leonov in the outer space. This spacesuit is called Berkut. It was designed specifically for the outer space. It was equipped with a life support system here in this backpack. And also you can see a special visor. This visor protected cosmonaut from aggressive sun rays. So what happened? As you can see, this spacesuit is really soft. But then Alexei Leonov was in the outer space. He felt that his costume becomes really hard, stiff, and also inflated. So it was really hard to move inside of such a spacesuit. That's why Leonov struggled returning to the spaceship. He struggled entering the airlock. This happened because of the difference of the internal and external pressure. So Leonov had to decrease the pressure inside of his spacesuit to make the suit more soft. So after he decreased the pressure, he managed entering the airlock, but not in the way it was planned. He should have entered his feet first and then closed the hatch and pressurized the airlock. But he entered his head first. So he had to turn around inside of the narrow airlock. It was a real miracle that Alexei Leonov managed to do it. So it was another victory, of the Soviet cosmonautics and a little step towards the Soviet manned lunar program that unfortunately was closed. So Alexei Leonov and his colleague Pavel Belayev were last crew that flight to the space on board of the Voskhod spacecraft. Because another crews already flight on board of another type of the spacecraft. It's called the Soyuz. And till now, more than 50 years, we use this spacecraft. Of course, nowadays is a deep modification. Let's have a look at the model of the spacecraft. Here it is. So briefly about the structure. This spacecraft consists of three main parts. Here is instrumental compartment with fuel tanks, engines, and solar panels. The second part is the descent vehicle. So it's equipped with three depreciation seats called Kazbek. So during the most dangerous part of the flight, launch, landing, docking, and undocking. Crew of 3 must stay here in their depreciation seats on board of the descent vehicle. But during another parts of the flight, one of the cosmonauts can enter this part of the spacecraft, the third part. It's called an orbital module. So here you can eat, have a rest, or even use a toilet. Nowadays, we use Soyuz to carry crews to the international space stations. And not only Russian cosmonaut, but also foreign cosmonauts or foreign astronauts use this spacecraft. During the mission, Soyuz stay docked to the International Space Station, but during the return to the Earth, these two compartments separate, detach from the descent vehicle and burn down into the dense layers of the atmosphere. On the descent vehicle with the crew on board, successfully returns from the flight. And now we will have a look at a real descent vehicle of the Soyuz spacecraft. So here it is. In year 2014, a crew of 3, 2 Russian cosmonauts, Oleg Kodov and Sergei Ryazansky, and also American astronaut Michael Hopkins, successfully returned from International Space Station inside of this descent vehicle. As you can see, it suffered during the return because to avoid overheating and burning. This vehicle is equipped with a special thermal protection coating made of asbestos cloth laminate. So while flying through the dense layers of atmosphere, this coating burns down to form an additional protective layer. So that's why cosmonauts on board are safe. At the altitude of 10 kilometers, hatch detaches from this side of the descent vehicle, and the parachute system begins to open. And then the bottom of the descent vehicle separates from it. And at the altitude of 1 meter, special soft landing agents turned on to provide a soft landing for a crew. So nowadays, we use Soyuz to carry crews to the international space stations, but earlier, Soyuz carried crews to another space stations, to previous stations, for example, Soviet station called Mir and stations called Salyut. Salyut were the first Soviet space stations, our first home on orbit. And here we can see how our first home on orbit looked like. First Soviet orbital stations consisted of just one model, and we knew that there were 7 stations called Salyut. These stations were civil, but in fact, the station Salyut 2, Salyut 3, and Salyut 5 were not civil but military stations. And, their real name was Almaz. See, Almaz stands for the diamond. So Almaz space station was ideally equipped for its purpose, spying. There was a camera it was called Agat-1. So with the help of this camera, specialists on Earth could even recognize the type of a car riding the road. A film was dropped from this station automatically in a special box. Soviet Union really worked a lot to build bigger space stations. So in 1986, we began to build a new orbital station, which was called Mir. It already consisted of 7 modules. And here in our museum, we have a full-size model of the Mir station. Let's have a look. So here it is. So in 1986, this part, the main model of the Mir space station was launched to the orbit, and then another models, Quant 2, Crystal, Peroda, and Spectre were launched and docked the entire construction one by one. So each model had its own purpose. For example, Crystal, model Crystal, was equipped for crystal growing, and there were all the necessary tools and devices for this. So Quant was an astrophysics model, and Quant 2 was equipped with a special airlock for spacewalking. So we had all the necessary tools and devices, not only for scientific experiments, but also for comfort living. All the cosmonauts, there were even shower and sauna on board of the Mir station. And here in this model, there is a real sauna. Yes, from the Mir space station. Of course, such a sauna required a lot of water and electricity, water and energy. That's why nowadays there is no sauna on board of the International Space Station. On board of the Mir space station, we also set a great record. Valery Polyakov, he was not only a cosmonaut but also a doctor, continuously spent in space on board of this station 437 days, and almost 3 months. So it was an experiment. Valery Polyakov wanted to make sure that it's possible for human being to survive during their way to Mars. So Valery Polyakov proved that with a great amount of training and with a special medicines, it is possible, to cope with the way to Mars. Because there is a great problem in space, the weightlessness, the zero gravity conditions. And Valery Polyakov had to stand more than a year in such a condition. So that's why he had to train a lot. He used a special velo trainer, something like the ergometer, a special running track, and of course a training costume. Nowadays, cosmonauts in the International Space Station devote at least 2 hours a day to training to reduce the impact of the weightlessness to their health. In year 2001, this station, the Mir station, was drowned in the Pacific Ocean and deorbited and drowned. During its work on orbit, during its existence that lasted 15 years, not only Soyuz spacecrafts, but also American reusable spacecrafts called Space Shuttle carried crews to the board of this station. In Soviet Union, there also was a program with the reusable spaceship. It was called Energia and Buran project. Let's have a look at a small model, yet a scale model of such a complex. So here it is. This complex, as you can see, consists of 2 main parts: the carrier rocket Energia, energy, and the reusable spaceship Buran. So it looks a bit like a space shuttle, but technically there is a great difference because Buran could fly in both manned and unmanned mode, and a space shuttle could fly on the manned mode, and in any mode Buran could land automatically. It has an automatic landing system. The special group of cosmonauts were formed to operate this spaceship, but unfortunately no cosmonaut ever flight on board of the Buran spacecraft. It was launched only once, on the 15th of November 1988. In unmanned mode, Buran made 2 turns around the Earth and safely returned to Earth and performed a really great automatic landing. With the help of the Buran spacecraft, we could not only send cosmonauts to the orbit, but also launch a cargo. Here you can see a big cargo compartment. And also on this picture, you can see that the spacecraft is covered with small tiles, black and white. So these are the heat protective tiles. During the first and the last flight of Buran, only 30 tiles were lost. When the Buran program was closed because of the Soviet Union collapse, the leader of this project, Gleb Lazino-Lazinsky, wanted to create another project, cheaper one. This project got the name MAX, Multipurpose Aerospace System. Let's have a look. So this little reusable spaceship should have been launched in a really unusual way from the board of the hugest cargo plane, Maria, An 225. So the spacecraft should have been launched with a fuel tank. Here is the fuel necessary for the launch. Maria, this plane, this aircraft was created specifically for the Buran and Energia project, as it could lift 250 tons. So that's why it, so with the help of such a plane, we could, for example, move part of a rocket from the factory to the Baikonur spaceport. And here on the top of the fuselage, we could move, we could lift the Buran, the Buran spacecraft. And this aircraft could also be used as the first stage in this multipurpose aerospace program. But unfortunately, this project was also closed because of the collapse of the Soviet Union. And at the end of the space part of our tour, I'll tell you about that project, which we successfully use till today, about the International Space Station. Let's have a look at a little model. So this exhibit is 20 times smaller than the real International Space Station. The real station is already as big as a football field. I think it's the most ambitious international project, as a lot of countries, Russia, USA, Canada, Japan, a lot of European countries join efforts to create and use this unique laboratory. It is used for unique scientific experiments. And nowadays, there are 7 cosmonauts and astronauts on board. There's 2 crews, a crew of Soyuz spacecraft and a crew of Crew Dragon spacecraft. Sorry. So this station traditionally consists of 2 parts. This is the Russian segment, and this is the American one. You can even see the Soyuz spacecraft docked to the board of the International Space Station. Cosmonauts and astronauts in the orbit can always be in touch with the Earth, with the Mission Control Center, with the help of such a satellite. Let's have a look. This satellite is called Luch 5A. Stands for the ray. And above this model of the satellite, you can see a 60 meters high dome with a star. So this area was built in 1954, and this year a real star from the Troitskaya Tower of Moscow Kremlin was installed to the top of our dome. But later, the original star was lost, and now you can see a copy. Yes, and also you can see a rays from this star. An important part of this subdome area is a portrait of the first cosmonaut, Yuri Gagarin. And now we will finish our the space part of our tour and begin the aviation one. And we will begin the aviation part of our tour from the cockpit of the new Russian aircraft MS-21. Let's go. Here is the cockpit of the new Russian aircraft, medium hull aircraft called MS-21. So this is our new project. This passenger plane should compete with Boeing 737 and Airbus A320. Here you want to find a helm, a steering wheel, because instead of the steering wheel, there are two side sticks. Here is the first one, and here is the second one. So using such a side stick, pilot can change, for example, the pitch, gain the altitude, or the opposite thing, and also with the help of such a side stick, it's possible to change the roll, to bank the plane to the left or to the right. In front of both of the pilots, you can see a primary flight display with the main information about the altitude, speed, and etc. Here is the navigation display, and here is the engine control display and the engine control knob. This knob in the center is used to control VD14 engine. It is also produced in Russia in the factory, which is located in Russian town Perm. I think that in 2 or 3 years, this aircraft MS-21 will be mass produced. And also, I'll tell you about the legend of the Soviet aviation, the first Soviet turbojet, Tu-104. So this aircraft was created in Tupolev Design Bureau in middle of 50s. The basis of this plane was the Bomber 260. So with the introduction of the first passenger jet, Soviet passengers knew what service on board is. Yes. So there was an exception that during the flight, passengers should feel like at home. The first modification included only 50 seats, but the second one was already equipped for 115 passengers. And there was a problem with this modification because this tail part of the plane was heavier than this one. So when there was a lack of passengers in this part, plane wanted to raise his nose to gain the altitude in uncontrolled mode. Also, not all the airports were designed for such type of passenger plane. Runways were too short. That's why the first planes were equipped with special brake parachutes. And also, piloting required not only new skills, but also confidence. That's why some air traffic controllers told to all the other aircrafts to leave the area when Tu-104 approached its destination. Such type of an aircraft was in use during 20 years, and one of the modification even was in use for creating the zero gravity condition. The first Soviet cosmonauts trained on board of Tu-104. Also, I want to tell you about another aircraft. The first supersonic passenger plane called Tu-144. Here you can see a scale model. It was also created in Tupolev's bureau, and when in 1962 Great Britain and France thought that they want to create the first passenger supersonic aircraft, Soviet Union answered that our spacecraft will be the first supersonic passenger plane in the sky. And it was true. Of course, it wasn't easy to create such type of a plane because engineers had to use heat protective materials. And also they had to design a special cockpit. Let's have a look at the model and then just a moment at this photo. So you can see that pilot could tilt this cockpit because when fly, for example, when your speed, for example, is more than 2,000 kilometers per hour, it's better to use this mode. But during landing and taking off, it's better to tilt the cockpit to see the runway. The biggest problem of Tu-144 was, of course, fuel. So it needed a lot of fuel. That's why the tickets were expensive. And because of such an expensive tickets, this aircraft was in use just during a little bit more than 1 year. Nowadays, such type of passenger aircrafts, supersonic aircrafts, are not in use. And at the end of our tour, I will show you a helicopter. This is a perspective Russian project, Ka-62. So this project has a long and interesting history. The civil helicopter was created on the base of the military one, or the helicopter Ka-60. Ka-60 was created in 90s, and its purpose was spying. When the Soviet Union collapsed, the project was no longer financed. And 20 years later, The civil version of this helicopter got the finance, and so now it's a perspective project. There is a passenger version for 15 passengers equipped with special depreciation seats. About 60% of this helicopter, for example, blades, will be made of modern composite materials. Now, this helicopter is not mass-produced because there are a lot of tools and devices which are produced not in Russia. I hope that in year 2025, this helicopter will get a special certificate. That's all for today. Thank you very much for attention, and have a nice time.
So thank you so much. It was a virtual visit to the Cosmonautics and Aviation Center of the Exhibition Center VDNKh in Moscow. It was our first experience to make not a simultaneous translation in the general sense of this word from Russian into English, but to make two parallels virtual visits, one in English and one in Russian. Maybe we have had some little technical problems, but I think that in general, this this format of virtual visit is very interesting and very really effective. So we'll try to follow it for our future museums days. As you know, we and Russian House in Brussels are organizing museums days for interesting Russian museums. And we are very happy that this month of April 2023, we have this opportunity to visit the Cosmonautics and Aviation Center in Moscow. As I said already, one of our best and more interesting space museums of Russia. Большое спасибо нашим гидам Ксении и Наталье. Спасибо за формат, который они предложили. Это очень хороший и интересный формат. Несмотря на некоторые технические трудности, я думаю, он более адаптирован к виртуальному визиту, чем простой синхронный перевод, потому что мы слышим полноценную экскурсию на обоих языках, и эта экскурсия останется в записи на канале YouTube Русского центра в Брюсселе, и я уверена, что еще очень много людей ее сможет посмотреть в записи на нашем канале YouTube и на нашем сайте rushaus.be. So I invite everybody to follow us in our website rushaus.be, and the virtual excursion will remain in our YouTube channel of the Russian House in Brussels, and we invite everybody to listen, to re-listen, to revisit the Cosmonautics and Aviation Center in VDNKh. Thank you so much, Natalia. Thank you so much, Ksenia. It was really very, very interesting. I have visited your museum several times because I am from Moscow personally, but today it was a pleasure for me to see your new exhibition. Thank you so much, and follow us on our Museums Day program. We'll invite you next time in next month to the State Russian Museum in St. Petersburg for our second virtual visit. And thank you so much for everybody one more, and see you later. Спасибо всем, берегите себя, увидимся на виртуальной площадке Русского дома в Брюсселе. Спасибо, до свидания. you.